Welcome back to the county seat. We are having a discussion today on air quality along the Wasatch Front. So far, we've kind of gotten a historical perspective a little bit about whether this is brand new or not. I'd like to turn my attention to how we're keeping track of things. Bryce, I noticed a week or so ago in the Salt Lake papers, there was an article about new monitoring stations being put in at schools at different elevations. What's up with that?
So as we learn more about air pollution, of course, we need to always get more information. This latest phase is looking at a study looking at schools in particular, and then how air pollution concentrations are affected by elevation. We know that the inversion has a top. Whenever anyone drives down Parley's Canyon, you can see when you're coming back into the valley, and unfortunately after a day of skiing, that's not always the best feeling to come back into the smog. But we know that it's worse at the valley floor, and most of our monitoring stations are concentrated on those areas of highest concentrations. But by spreading out with more information in the Western Valley and up on the benches, we can start to see how that is impacting that local area, so we know that we can encourage people to exercise, for instance, on the benches if we know that the concentrations are lower there. Our monitoring network is concentrated in our population centers. So we have real-time monitoring that's available, and we put that information out both on our webpage and then through apps that are available for both the iPhone and Android operating systems. So people can look real-time, find the closest monitor to them, and see what the actual concentrations are in their neighborhood.
Who needs to be involved to address the situation? Bret, you brought up a very interesting point on the way in, that people look at the problem and it's their neighbor's problem.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I sense sometimes. It's an issue that's on all our minds. But, and we all know what potential ways that we can help with the solution. But maybe sometimes it's inconvenient to us as an individual, and, let my neighbor ride the bus, or somebody else do this or that or the other. It's something that we all need to participate in.
I think it's easy to look at visible sources and say, those are the big polluters, it's not me. And when we look at what the sources of pollution are along the Wasatch Front, only about 11% are businesses. So as people drive in from Tooele County to Salt Lake, or from Davis County to Salt Lake, they go past big smokestacks and they see them and they say, those are the polluters. Businesses only account for about 11%. Homes, about 34%. And tailpipes, cars, are about 54%. Now, that 54% is spread out among all the commuters, and so the difference each commuter makes is small, but collectively, that's the biggest group. And so, who needs to be involved? Frankly, everyone. And, if you can trip chain and cut out 2 or 3 back and forth trips by doing that, if on really bad days you can telecommute or take UTA on those days, that makes a difference. But I think it's incumbent upon individuals to not point to the smokestacks and say that's the problem, because everyone's actually contributing to the problem.
I look at some businesses and they'd go, well, same thing. Somebody else needs to deal with the problem. Is telecommuting a viable option with overstock?
It is, and one of the things that we've done this year is we've assigned somebody in our human resource department to look at the daily updates as they're coming and as they're predicted, and they use the Utah Air app and check that out. And when we're entering into a red day or a yellow day, we give the option to some, not all, to telecommute. And we figure if we can rotate that through our workforce on the bad days, we can be part of the solution on those particularly bad days.
So really the focus is when we have that lid on the valley, when the inversion's in place. Just to put some perspective to what Jonathan said, on a daily basis in Salt Lake County alone, we drive over 30 million miles. And there certainly is an opportunity for us to avoid 1 or 2 of those trips, especially during those times when we have the inversion in place. It's not all winter. On average, it's about 18 days a year. Of course, this winter has been one of the worst in terms of the fact that we had the snow on the ground early and the storms are infrequent. But everyone can make that choice. And with better information about how cars pollute as well. Cold starts are an important part of this. When your car is starting, it's basically an uncontrolled vehicle, just like it was in the 70s. New modern cars have pollution control equipment. They have catalytic converters, they have variable timing and things like that. So once it's up to operating temperature, it's very efficient. But if you can avoid that first start of the day, avoid those cold starts, so even if you can bring a lunch that day and not, again, have that cold start cycle as you leave the office and go to lunch, just those little things can reduce both the vehicle miles traveled and the emissions that are associated.
Along that vein, one of the things that has really come to my attention as of late is the fact that a lot of kids are not walking to school. They're getting a ride on a daily basis. And particularly on the pickup side of that, at the end of the day when parents come and they're waiting that 10-15 minutes for the bell to ring, turn the vehicle off. Don't idle. And I think that can make a huge difference.
You know, we talked about it being some 15 to 30 days a year that it's a problem, but I think what we need to do is focus on it every day to create habits. If we're not in these habits, it's hard to switch them on when we have a yellow or a red day. And I think businesses can help in that respect. We can encourage and facilitate carpooling among our employees. We can subsidize use of public transit. Simple things like that, I think, turn actions into habits so that on the tougher air days, people are already doing it.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. One of the other things that comes to mind in my case, I look at I run a small fleet for our shows. I've got 4 vehicles, and I would consider making them biofuel and going to a cleaner fuel like natural gas. But to get a federally certified conversion kit is $10,000 or $15,000, while you can buy kits, in the quote gray market that work just fine, and they're like, $1,500. Well, at a $1,500 investment, I do it, but at a $40,000 investment for the fleet, it's too much. I think we'll take a break. I want an answer to that question and your perspective from all 3 of you when we come back. Stay with us. We're on the county seat. We're talking about air quality today along the Wasatch Front. We'll be back in just a second.
I didn't order this.
Compliments of the lady in gold.
Hello, trouble.
Anything worth doing in this quiet little town?
You look like the kind of man that could show a girl a good time.
You strike me as the kind of girl that likes a manicure and a massage.
How's that for a manicure?
I hate golf.
I was hoping for something a little more vigorous.
Vigorous, I can do.
And I thought you'd be riding side saddle.
What? I'm gonna regret this. How about that manicure?
Almost 45% of the oil produced in Utah, 7.8 million barrels, comes from Duchesne County. That oil feeds our state economy, provides job growth, and supports local business. Here in Duchesne County, we're working to make Utah an economic, cultural, and technological leader. Whether you're here for business or pleasure, Duchesne County will welcome you with open arms and invite you to explore all the beauty of the Uinta Mountains. Duchesne County, close enough for business, far enough to get away.
Cedar City, Utah is home of the Tony Award-winning Utah Shakespeare Festival. But did you know that we also offer a different kind of play?
Escape the gray. Head south for clear skies. Cedar City, Bryan Head. It's where play is the thing.